So one of the reasons I think a lot of 40, 50-year-olds don't get into sports performance style training or even HIIT training, CrossFit style training, is I'm going to get hurt. I know I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get injured. I hear a lot of people get injured. So let's just bring some like actual like science to bear here and empiricism in terms of like, what are the injuries for athletes in their 40s and 50s that want to continue sport, continue doing things like rec basketball, running, maybe even sprinting, sports that do require a level of being an athlete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really a lot of the common ones you're going to see, especially as athletes get in their 40s and 50s, back pain. Most people have dealt with some sort of back injury, back pain, some sort of disc issue at some point. I've had several discussions with many chiropractors that say if you were to take an MRI of the entire population, 80 to 85% of them would have a herniated disc somewhere along the lines. They just don't know it. A lot of times if we decrease the stress on it and we allow it to recover and heal and go through the proper progression for certain things, you can recover those issues without surgery. I had a few myself, got some chiropractic work. So, it wasn't something I could do all on my own, but with the help of some chiropractic work and then a therapist that just gave me exercises to do on my own. I didn't go see a therapist regularly. I was able to come back and hit bigger and better weightlifting numbers than I had ever hit pre-disc issue. So I think back, some sort of spinal issue is very common. You also see a lot of tennis elbow. I imagine that you might see that on a skyrocket as pickleball continues to skyrocket. And then stress fractures, just simple, especially in the shins, down the shins and around the knees, you see these small little repeated stress fractures because, again, we kind of get that motivation, and with the motivation, we try to do too much, and, the body's not tolerant enough for it. It's not ready to handle those stresses. So, we end up getting these small little micro tears or micro fractures in the body.
Well, let's break those two down. I want to break down tennis elbow with you, and I want to break down the shins. So let's start with tennis elbow. So how can sports performance maybe help me prevent these? I want to play pickleball. I want to do this. I'm 40, 50, 60 years old. I don't want tennis elbow, but I want to do the activity. What are a couple things that sports performance, if you're programming for somebody, you might be doing? I'm using might to help them.
Well, there's actually one I left out that I probably should have mentioned, but it actually tees up for, I think, a lot of the common reasons you're going to see in tennis elbow is a rotator cuff or shoulder issue. Especially, you're seeing a lot more, I would say, the last decade with the technology, the sitting, the forward postures, and we're getting kind of locked in these positions, and we can't open up and go overhead without really getting up into the neck and the trap muscles. And so when I lose the ability closer to the midline, you're going to see that compensate down chain. And so when I don't have the position or range of motion at my shoulder and I need to go do something with my hand that requires rotation, well, now I have to create it somewhere else down that chain. And so it can create more torque and stress than it's designed to handle. This is designed to have some rotational torque in it, but you don't want to focus on a lot of rotational stress in the elbow or the wrist, right? That's part of what caused my dislocation in the elbow. So, it's something that you want to make sure that you have good strength, stability, joint function around the midline first, and then what's that look like down chain? So a lot of times that tennis elbow is going to get locked up because I have to do a lot of this forearm backhand swing. You'll see it in golf because of kind of that rotation when you come through. Well, if I don't have the ability to rotate through the trunk and the shoulders well, that's going to trickle down, and now I have to rotate more than what these joints are designed or want to do. Even if they can handle it, it's not going to be optimal through force and power, right? And so if I want to be better at my sport, it's not just go harder. I need to learn how to use the right muscles correctly.
So you would program things that work that shoulder, that work that twisting motion. So I'm using more of my body and I'm not isolating in that elbow and putting it all right in one place.
Typically, you still need to address the pain. So like a lot of times I refer to pain. You'll hear a lot of therapists talk about this too. Physical therapists say pain's a neighbor. It's an angry neighbor, right? And so it's something that's either upstream or downstream from where you feel that pain that's causing the problem. And so I still need to address the pain. And this is what you're going to see a lot in physical therapy, and I don't want to down talk physical therapy because there's a lot of great physical therapists out there, but there are some that just take you through a basic protocol, build the insurance and keep you rolling. And it's not really going to help you get to where you're trying to get back to. It's just getting you back to, can I drive to work? Can I sit at my desk? Can I write, with a pen well? If I can do those things well, then that's, what the healthcare system is designed to get you back to, not playing golf, not playing tennis, not, whipping it up on the pickleball court, right? And so if I don't have that rotation through here, I'll see that trickle down chain, but I still need to get rid of this pain, or I'm not going to be able to like get that to function up top either. So it's a balance. It's kind of like a spectrum. I need to address this still, and I'll do that through generally like low intensity or low stress isometric movements. Even a basic bicep curl where I'm squeezing at the top and I'm controlling down on a 10-second count, right? Just to hear my elbow crack there. And do it with different positions of the wrist or the forearm, right? Because now I'm working that joint a little bit different plane or a little bit different range of motion and strengthening those tissues around there a little bit differently. And so I need to do things like that, or I would address things like that for the pain. But if I don't go back and address that root cause, that pain's going to keep coming back in the picture.
All right. So let's talk about the shins next. I work with a lot of track athletes right now, young kids. They're having a lot of shin issues. What are a couple of your go-tos from a sports performance standpoint to preventing these from ever even showing up?
Yeah, a lot of shin stuff. I think the tibialis anterior gets highly neglected. It's really a basic thing you can do at home is just stand with your back on a wall. Ben Patrick's really kind of popularized this lately, the knees over toes guy. And so stand butt and back against the wall, put your feet together, 6 to 10 inches away from the wall. And all you're trying to do, keeping your legs straight, is flex your toes all the way up to your shins, pause for a second, and then back down. And, challenge yourself with this. It's going to get boring. By the time you get 10, 15 reps, what's commonly prescribed in, kind of the exercise realm, you're going to be like, this is stupid. This is what happened to me the first time I heard him talk about this. And I used to do these a little bit at my internship down in Tampa, but we'd go 3 sets of 15 usually, never go above 20. And Ben Patrick's talking about doing sets of 25 to 30. And I'm like, I'm just going to see what this does. And I get to about 15. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why am I still doing this? By the time I got to 23, I almost couldn't flex my toes up anymore. Right. And so it's something that, I hit that hard wall and then they said, hey, I don't want to do any more work. And so it's something that you can build that up where you're doing 30, 40, 50 of them at a time.
Gosh.
The closer you are to the wall, the easier it is. The further your feet are away from the wall, the harder
it just goes to show you like how many reps you're doing when you're running or when you're sprinting or when you're changing direction or like how many miles a soccer player goes or a tennis player, pickleball player goes during the course of activity. And that's a real eye opener where it's like, how many of those did you just do? Oh, like 30. And I asked you to do 50. I couldn't.
Yep.
Like think about that rep exchange. Yep. Like, wow, I wonder why my bones are giving way. I wonder why my muscles starting to pull away from it's just like literally wanted to stop 50, 60 reps in of the other activity. Yep. But somehow we feel like, I'm on a court doing it here. It's going to be fine. Whereas like your body will force you to, it'll just, all the compensation starts happening when you wonder like, why does my hip hurt? Like, why does my knee, and you keep working back up to the middle of the chain. It's like, well, because of this.
It's fine early on in the game or the event, right? But as you go on, you got to withstand. You need the capacity of that. I actually Coach Jason Roberson over at Ball State. I was over setting up for baseball, and men's volleyball program was up on the board, and he had a Peterson step down or Peterson step up program, and it's basically just a little like heel tap where you're just getting kind of end range knee flexion and then extending back up. And we'll do these a lot at the gym, and I'll program usually 20 to 30 reps at a time. You get a nice little pump from them. But he had the volleyball guys doing sets of 70. They had 2 sets of 70. And I'm like, good for you. Like, how do you get your guys to not stay bored in that? And he goes, well, they kind of do, but I got to remind them what it's for. And as we said, he goes, when they go 5 games deep, how many jumps do you have on the court?
Oof.
Right? And so I want to make sure your knees can handle that much flexion extension over and over and over again. And it goes back to that. It depends variable. What's your intent? If I think, okay, well, I need to be doing sets of 70. Well, can you even do 10? Right? Can you do 20? Can we get to 30 without breaking down? Can I maintain, my mechanical tension and my mechanical positions well as I go? Or am I just fighting through a bad position that I'm putting more stress in the body, right? When you get on the field or the court, you don't know what position you're going to be in. But if I can train to stay stacked or to stay in these common positions that I know are safe and I can build resiliency around the joints and the tissues there, like that only just helps prepare and minimize that risk on the field or the court. Excellent.
Well, thanks for sharing like the way sports performance can kind of address and prevent a lot of these injuries. I'm going to skip ahead to this one here.